Our next speaker is Hugh Riley, the CEO of the Caribbean Tourism Organization. I got to spend some time with Hugh last night at Buzo, and I can tell you the challenges of tourism, certainly in certain islands of the Caribbean, has been one that has kept people like Hugh quite busy in the last couple of decades. His responsibility is to fulfill CTO's purpose, really, of leading sustainable tourism, providing specialized services and tech support to governments. They've been an early supporter of our initiatives in the tourism industry. He joined the staff of the CTO in 2002 as Director of Marketing, and he worked many years in many different positions, senior tourism positions in the US, Canada, and the Caribbean. He got his start in marketing with McCann. He attended the City University of New York and Thomas Edison State University. As a member of the board of directors of various tourism and academic bodies, his breadth and talent in the tourism field is unparalleled. His topic is how digital payments can boost tourism in the Caribbean. It's my pleasure to announce Mr. Hugh Riley, the CEO of the CTO.
Thank you very much, Peter. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You know, one of the real challenges of conference planners, and we do a number of conferences ourselves, is to try and figure out what to do with this after lunch session. I recognize the fact that I'm competing with all the messages that you were checking and now have to respond to during the lunch break, and I'm certainly competing with your digestive system. You know, interestingly, when I mentioned to my wife that I was going to be here and I was going to be speaking at this event, and she said, well, what time are you speaking? And I said, well, I'm speaking immediately after lunch. And she said, oh, you don't have to worry about it. She says, you can say whatever you like, because nobody's going to hear her. Well, the rule is, and I will grant you this is my concession to you. You are allowed to sleep, but you're not allowed to snore, because apparently what that does is to disrupt the people next to you who really want to sleep. So it's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here. The Caribbean Tourism Organization, as you know, is the tourism development entity for the region. And some people have said, well, what are you doing in this environment? We were, in fact, I'm going to use the term early adopters as far as BIT and FinTech are concerned, because a year ago, we really started to get closer to BIT, and our relationship flourished. Oliver Gale came and spoke at our State of the Tourism Industry conference in Grenada last year. Rod and Adams and our organization have been getting closer and closer. Marla Dukaran keeps instructing us as to move along and to get that MOU really functional and working. We've signed an MOU, and we're all trying to find solutions to tourism problems that could evolve out of this relationship with BIT. So it's not too surprising, therefore, that the industry that drives the economies of our Caribbean countries is trying to find ways to interact with financial technology. There are solutions there, and of the 30 million people a year that visit the Caribbean by air alone, and an almost even number also by sea, there are 30 million opportunities for transactions to occur and opportunities for us to simplify and make more efficient those transactions. So that essentially is kind of a clumsy summary of why I'm here, but in tackling the topic of using digital payments to boost tourism, I started to focus on one of the key criticisms constantly leveled against tourism planners. People say that we talk a lot about the number of people who arrive in our countries, and we talk about where they come from and so on, but we pay very little attention to what they actually spend. We really don't seem to care about the basic questions that we would ask ourselves if we were running any other kind of business. What about the level of pricing? What about the investment in promoting in that particular market, the suitability of the product for a customer, the way we position ourselves in the marketplace, and so on? In short, are we seriously in the tourism business concerned about profitability, or are we simply focusing on butts in beds? Well, for certain, we have to talk about arrival numbers. I mean, hotels, airlines, cruise lines, destinations. Everybody pays attention to actual numbers of passengers. We have to. For starters, everyone needs to monitor simple carrying capacity. We need to know the impact the numbers are having on whatever our particular environment might be, and the impact that those numbers have on the enjoyment of the experience that we're trying to sell to our customers. But if we were to take it a little further and examine what it costs to acquire a visitor from source market A versus source market B, and then if we looked at the spending patterns, the length of stay, and a few other variables, we would get very, very close to determining who our best possible customers are, and how to utilize our very scarce resources in the Caribbean to maximize benefit and to attract our most profitable visitors. So a good place to start to understand who our best possible customers really are is not just to target the right zip codes. That helps, but it has shortcomings. Not just to aim at age and income demographics, also useful but not totally definitive, but to use whatever reliable tools we can find to determine how much of the tourism dollars are actually injected into the economy. In other words, we need data, and a digital payments platform will be able to capture data on who is coming, from where, how much they spend, at what establishments, how frequently, what time of year, and so on. So, what role can digital payments play in the quest to actually grow Caribbean tourism? First and foremost, digital payments have an electronic footprint. Footprints can be followed. Cash is anonymous. So if, as a tourist, I came to Barbados with a suitcase full of cash and distributed it all over the island across every restaurant and attraction and duty-free store and rum shop all over Barbados, no one would be any the wiser about who I am or how much I'm spending, because cash leaves no footprint. It disappears without giving local authorities the benefit of being able to properly identify a customer. On the other hand, electronic payments, whether they are via credit cards or mobile wallets, provide a means of evaluating the spending patterns of our visitors. And incidentally, while the terms digital wallet and mobile wallets are often used interchangeably, they come with a basic difference. A digital wallet can be accessed using an internet-enabled desktop, laptop, tablet, or smartphone, but a mobile wallet is meant particularly for smartphones. A digital wallet, such as Bit's M-Money wallet, which is available for Apple and Android phones, provides access to a digital payments platform which allows for free peer-to-peer transfers of funds and free payments at merchants for goods and services using a mobile device. The merchants benefit from significantly lower fees and charges compared to traditional bank solutions. And then there's the data. Merchants have access to data that will enable analysis and diagnostics. I should say that, well, this is self-evident, aside from individuals, retail businesses around the world are using mobile wallets in rapidly increasing numbers. In a recent report from the UK, Marie Weaver writes that mobile wallet use is on a steady rise in the United Kingdom since the launch of Apple Pay UK and Android Pay UK. In the Weaver report, a survey found that the use of digital wallets resulted in increased sales and improved customer loyalty. The report continued, merchants have also started using this medium as a marketing tool by offering rewards. So the data suggests that mobile wallets are the fourth preferred marketing channel in the United States, and in the UK, they rank second. In a survey in the US, Gallup Analytics reported that fewer Americans say they're making all or most of their purchases with cash compared to what they said they did 5 years ago, a sign of a shift towards electronic payment methods as well as mobile payment apps. So while few indicate that they've given up cash altogether, more Americans do say they're making merely some of their purchases with cash. About a quarter report currently making all or most of their purchases with cash, and the majority, actually 53%, say they currently make only some or none of their purchases with cash. Significant, of course, because the United States and the UK are major source markets for Caribbean tourism. As mobile technology and e-commerce have proliferated, Americans use their cell phones and computers to make more and more purchases. And with the onset of PayPal, Google Wallet, Apple Pay, and numerous other mobile payment options, Americans are finding that paying for items electronically is more convenient than having to carry cash for in-person purchases. And not surprisingly, younger Americans, particularly millennials, in significant numbers, are saying that they use less cash now than they did 5 years ago. And millennials, of course, are the sweet spot for a number of our CTO member countries as far as tourism is concerned here in the Caribbean. Now, when I applied for my mobile wallet, M-Money, I was asked a series of fairly intrusive but important questions. BIT wanted to know who I really was, so that the technology that I was about to place on my phone could be used to securely transact business in a way that would protect me and the retailers from whom I'm buying the goods and services. The emphasis seemed to be on simplifying the process by verifying the customer data thoroughly and upfront. That level of protection engenders confidence. In my opinion, it ensures convenience and will likely attract customers. It was simple, and to me, it made sense. By contrast, let me share an experience with you that I had while attempting to send cash to a friend in another Caribbean country, using a very different and incredibly expensive process to try and get some cash from my pocket to someone in another Caribbean country, someone who it turns out was unbanked. So there was no question of wiring an amount from one account to another. This was somebody who just did not have a bank account. So I went into to a commercial bank, an unnamed commercial bank, waited for ages on a very long line, and I had in my pocket everything that I thought the clerks could ask for. I arrived finally at the counter, and the teller looked at my ID and all of that stuff, and she smiled sweetly, and she said, "But you have no utility bill." So that stumped me, and clerks love that. And I said, well, I've been able to show you who I am. I have some evidence, though, of where I work. I have my work address and so on. And I know you can't make the policy, but could you talk to a supervisor? So she disappears, and in a minute or two she comes back and she says, the supervisor says she knows you, but you need a utility bill. Whereupon I said to myself, and I said to them, so if I were Mr. Sheboygan, I'm curious to know, if I were a tourist arriving here and I wanted urgently to get some cash back to my country, do you really think I would have my gas bill with me? No, she said, but he would be in trouble too. So the moral of that story, though, is not that I have anything at all against, we were talking about you earlier, Oliver. Oliver Gale was the speaker at our State of the Tourism Industry Conference last year. So the moral is that one has nothing against commercial banks, but the whole issue is that the convenience of the process is likely to create a happy customer. That is the only moral of that particular story. Needless to say, I never set foot back in that bank again, and I just found another way to get the cash to the person who really urgently needed it. Digital payments can provide a meaningful place in the tourism sector for the underbanked, and of course for the unbanked as well. They provide a means for small and micro enterprises to step out of the shadows, hold their heads high, and participate meaningfully in a country's tourism economy. Hugh's Water Sports or Patricia's food truck selling services to locals and visitors might not be set up to accept credit cards, but could very easily become accessible on a mobile payment platform such as BIT has been talking about all day. But what about cash? Surely tourists who come to the Caribbean, surely they spend cash. Actually, they're doing so in steadily decreasing numbers. They are reluctant to leave their homes with large amounts of cash and take it to a foreign country where they are unsure about security and exchange rates. Sometimes we forget, I think, how challenging it can be for people unfamiliar with local circumstances to go to an ATM machine here at the destination and withdraw large sums of cash. Another reality is that people who are dealing in an unfamiliar situation will often stick to the more established retailers, thus excluding large numbers of small and micro tourism enterprises from ever fully participating in tourism's economic benefits. Digital payments on a simple, efficient mobile platform have helped to change that. Digital payments offer a visitor one more significant advantage: the ability to pay in their home currency. This reduces the anxiety that they might have about what they're actually spending and whether they got a good value for money. A key consideration, particularly for duty-free shoppers. The technology now exists to allow an immediate conversion so that visitors know exactly what they have paid in their local currency. Now, I've mentioned UK and US tourists, but we certainly can't meaningfully discuss trends in international tourism without discussing the world's largest group of international tourists. Chinese visitors are increasingly traveling the world, and they are leaving their cash in the bank. Instead, they're paying with their cell phones. Recently, I read the results of a survey by research firm Nielsen, which found that 65% of Chinese tourists surveyed had used mobile payment systems while traveling overseas. And according to that study, more than 90% of Chinese tourists would use mobile payment systems overseas if given the option. That's worth paying attention to, even here in the Caribbean. Why? Because over 130 million Chinese traveled overseas in 2017, and more could be attracted to the Caribbean. Statistics show that Chinese travelers are now far outspending non-Chinese visitors, and they are far more likely to spend money in destinations with payment systems that are familiar to them. According to the Nielsen survey, Chinese tourists cited convenience, speed, and familiarity as the primary reason for using mobile payments while abroad. Among other reasons, respondents chose feeling proud of Chinese mobile payment brands. Well, they've got their own brands too, and a favorable exchange rate and discounts or promotions. But the point is that they're familiar with the technology, with the use of that particular means of paying. We're told that WeChat Pay and Alibaba's Alipay, two leading Chinese-based e-wallets, together with a growing number of local e-wallet companies, are advancing rapidly in Southeast Asia as well. Why? Because Southeast Asian nations are primary vacation spots for Chinese. So the point is that people are focusing on the Chinese market as tourists, and we must too. So e-wallets are increasing in popularity around the world, and the Caribbean will need to keep pace with this trend. Digital payments save time and simplify a transaction. These are key components in delivering customer satisfaction. If we make it quick and we keep it simple, there seems to be a certain, there's always a certain psychology attached to keeping a transaction simple, and that's intertwined with the whole customer experience. How many times have we gone to a restaurant and the food might be good and everything else might be fine, you're ready to pay the bill, you want to complete the transaction now and go home. And now you can't find the waiter. You can't catch his eye. When finally you snag him, the payment process begins, he disappears forever with your credit card. And now you start, all kinds of things are going through your head. And, what's he doing with my credit card? Is he ordering stereo equipment? Did somebody reject it? I mean, what's happening? So by the time that whole process is done, you can't even remember how good the food was. Something has helped to ruin that customer experience. The point is that simplicity and efficiency make all the difference. So, if simplicity, speed, and safety are key elements of customer retention, the easier it is to make a purchase, the more revenue will be generated. Often, visitors leave the Caribbean without buying some special item that they really wanted to get simply because there was no way of completing the transaction, or simply because they had no cash left in their pocket before they got on the plane. Can we not find a way to make sure that the M-Wallet solution is in their hands or in their pockets? Seminars, workshops, media campaigns, and various direct sales efforts, coupled, of course, with discounts, incentives, and zero merchant fees, are all ways to encourage the use of mobile payments. And when it's all said and done, all users have to see a major benefit if they're to switch to any new technology. For years and years in New York City, taxis refused to use any kind of electronic payment system. They insisted on cash until word started to get out that, you know what, if you take credit cards, the tip gets built in, and it's very easy for the rider to choose 15 or 20 or 25%, actually it's gone up to 30% now, rather than having to work out in their head what the tip would be. And because personal interest is the greatest motivator, once the word got out that you're getting bigger tips if you take an electronic system of payment, then guess what? Everything changed. You'd be hard-pressed to find a taxi in New York City now that doesn't accept some kind of mobile payment system. So some major destinations have followed suit, have discovered that integrating e-wallets into the public transportation systems encouraged the use of public transport by visitors, which in turn increased the level of visits to sites and attractions. And here in the Caribbean, the region-wide adoption of mobile wallets would likely result in an increase in multi-destination travel as well. If visitors are able to move, if they can move from one country to another across the Caribbean in a hassle-free manner. Business owners across the region need to be aware of the new trends emerging as a result of this growing e-wallet phenomenon. They need to adapt and learn fast to take advantage of the ways in which e-wallets are influencing the tourism industry. So, in summary, digital payments can bring transactions out of the shadows by providing transparency, help satisfy a key customer demand for speed and convenience, facilitate international travelers, be inclusive of small and micro enterprises, provide invaluable information to assist the target marketing efforts of smart destinations, and help to grow business. Like anything that's new, e-wallets and other mobile payment systems will attract suspicion and doubt at first. It's just natural to fear the unknown. I recently read an account of what Thomas Edison had to go through in those early days of having invented electricity and the light bulb. And can you imagine the cynics? I mean, what do we need a bulb for? What is this thing called electricity? I hear it can kill people. We've been doing all this. We've been getting on all this time so well with gas lamps. What's with this bulb thing? But that was 1879, and in between then and now, there have been a number of brilliant inventions which have also had to go through the same kind of suspicion and doubt because we are suspicious and doubtful of the unknown. Earlier today, we heard how Bill Gates himself became a convert. But it's hard to resist change when it's consumer-driven. If someone had said a few years ago that taxi companies in major cities would ever be facing stiff competition, we would all have laughed. What could possibly be the alternative to a taxi? Well, we all know that answer now. You take your mobile device out, you open up an app, and 3 clicks later, you've made an arrangement for a car to arrive at your feet. It takes you there, it takes you wherever you want to go, and in the near future, without a driver, you arrive at your destination and you disembark without putting your hand in your pocket. The transaction has been quick, simple, and efficient. That's one of the reasons for the phenomenal success, of course, of the rideshare businesses like Lyft, Uber, Getaround, Ola, and others. Quick, simple, and efficient could be the mantra to help digital payment systems increase tourism arrivals and increase tourism spend across the Caribbean. We are particularly proud at the CTO of our MOU and our arrangement with BIT. We are particularly proud that it is a Caribbean company, which in my humble opinion, we have a responsibility to help to elevate. And we are particularly proud that this symbiotic relationship that we have is going to help us to resolve some major tourism issues, particularly surrounding data collection and understanding how to follow the dollar through the economy. Now, on behalf of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, and because I'm Bajan, I get to say welcome to Barbados. Let me say thank you very much, and I'm particularly proud that Barbados is at the center of this discussion that we're having today. So to paraphrase the chairman, Peter George, he wished that he were a Bajan. I'm thinking that if we play our cards right, if we play our cards right, there are only going to be 2 kinds of people left in the world: those that are Bajan and those that wish they were.